What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bridging the Geekdoms. Today, I am going to talk about Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. I'm going to review that. Now, if you haven't yet, make sure you go back and check out my review on Man of Steel. Now, this is all a build-up to Zack Snyder's Justice League. Days away, guys. We are days away. I cannot wait for it. So make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe, all that jazz, because from now until the end of time, I will be discussing all of what is in the Snyderverse, because let me tell you, it's not over yet. We're getting so much more. So I cannot wait to discuss it all with you and to keep just the excitement and passion going. Cannot wait. Now, Batman vs. Superman. You know, this movie, when I first saw it, was not what I was hoping or expecting it to be. I was actually very disappointed coming out of the theater. I thought that it was a muddled mess of a film that just was everywhere. There was too much going on. It was too stuffed. It didn't pace properly and everything like that. So I came out of the theater very disappointed in what I saw. Over time, I started, seeing what people were saying on the internet, talking to friends and people that I know that saw the film, and I started realizing, maybe there's something more to this. Maybe there's something I missed. So when it came out on digital and DVD and Blu-ray and all that jazz, I had to pick it up, and obviously I picked up the Ultimate Edition, which was a rated R version for the film. Now, what's crazy is that version was actually announced prior to the movie coming out. A lot of people thought that it was in response to Deadpool coming out and being rated R and being such a big hit, but it was not. This was something that was planned and agreed upon with Zack Snyder in the studio prior to the film even releasing in theaters, that there would be a rated R extended version. So when this movie came out, the extended edition came out, I had to dive in. I had to check it out. I had to see, okay, what is an extra 30 minutes going to do? But here's the kicker. It wasn't just an extra 30 minutes. They also re-edited the movie in a way that the pacing and the story makes a lot more sense. And that right there was amazing, fantastic, because that was one of my biggest issues with the theatrical cut. So finally, I get to sit down and watch this movie. Now, let's get into the film itself, all right? Because the film itself, the story is a very deep and intricate story. There are many moving pieces for this arc to play out, and a lot of people don't quite understand or get or grasp that whole idea and aspect of it. It is such an amazing and intricate story that when you first watch it, you're going to miss a lot. This is a movie you have to go back to and watch on multiple occasions to fully grasp and understand what is going on. People want to sit there and bash on the movie so much, but when you think about it, we're now 5 years, in just a few days, we're 5 years out from that movie releasing. It is still talked about as much today as it was back then. To me, that tells me that, you know what? Maybe there's something to this movie. Maybe there is a masterpiece hidden in there somewhere. So let's get into it. All right. Enough of the build up and the hype. Let's get into it. The movie starts off beautifully. A beautiful lie. The way it opens up with the Wayne's funeral is absolutely heartbreaking, but it sets the tone for what this movie and who Bruce Wayne and Batman is as a character. Again, we've seen the death of the Waynes multiple times throughout the history of Batman on film. But this, while, yes, this is very similar to what we've seen before, there is a huge aspect of this scene in this movie that, they've never really highlighted before. And it was that of Thomas Wayne protecting his wife and family. And I'm not saying that never happened in the past or anything, but it's very much highlighted here in this movie. More so Martha, his dying words, were to the love of his life. Martha, that is a very, very important thing that plays out and is an important aspect later on in this movie. Seeing the creation of Batman, all that stuff with the funeral. Again, nothing we've never seen before. It's just beautifully done in this iteration. I'm not saying it's better than any other iteration, but I really do enjoy what they do with this film. Then opening up to the events of Man of Steel, the end, where Bruce Wayne is actually rushing into Metropolis, going towards the destruction, trying to rescue and save his friends and his employees, then, actually rescuing a little girl. So much of it is just, it's all symbolism. It's showing us what kind of character Bruce Wayne actually is. And the idea of it is to say, holy crap, okay, I start to understand why Bruce is thinking like he's thinking later on in the movie, because we see, early on his parents die. There was nothing he could do. He was helpless. He was a child at that time. That's the reason they show Bruce as a child screaming when it happens. There's nothing he can do. He's a child. You then see the events in Metropolis taking place, and again, he's helpless. There's nothing he can do. He's looking up with anger, at these alien beings flying down, fighting like he's never seen before. And again, instead of just saying there's nothing I can do, he begins to create a plan on how to stop Superman. Because as he says in the movie, if there's even a 1% chance that he could be a threat, we have to take it with an absolute certainty. If you take a look at what he's been through over 20 years of being Batman, the death of Robin, probably his best friend, a son to him, seeing everything that has happened and transpired, or understanding what has happened and transpired through his life as Batman, you start to realize, like, okay, this is a damaged person. While he may have gotten into being the crime fighter for good reason, living that life for 20 years takes a toll on you. And he begins to lose his way. And the fear begins to overtake him when he sees what happens in Metropolis when Zod attacks or comes to the planet. So the fear takes over. Now he's a little more like, all right, we gotta we gotta stop this guy. The whole backdrop of how the planet, how planet Earth, how America, how the world is viewing Superman begins to get highlighted after this point, because now we see Bruce Wayne's point of view. Now let's see how the world is taking Superman. And it's not a very positive manner. Now, there is some manipulation going on in regards to this. Lex Luthor is manipulating things, and that's something that I think could have been highlighted better in this movie, is how much manipulating Lex was actually doing. But he's manipulating the world. He's finding a way, because Lex himself has an issue with Superman. He was abused as a child, mentally, physically, whatever you want to say, whatever it was, but he was abused as a child. He wasn't loved as a child. And he sits there and says, look, why should we worship a god when, look at my life, look how bad my life was. And he was never there to save me, and that's kind of the whole backdrop behind Lex. Now, he starts manipulating the world to turn the world against Superman because of his hatred and disgust for Superman. Now, the world, along with this manipulation, is questioning, do we need a Superman? And this goes back to Man of Steel, to Jonathan Kent's biggest worry and concern is, how will the world react when they discover that there's someone like you? And that right there is very important to remember, because there was reason for concern. And it highlights and actually makes Man of Steel so much better, because it plays out that way. And does the world need a Superman? Despite all of the good that he can do, there's the destruction, there's the fear aspect, there's the new threats coming in because of him. All of that kind of makes you wonder, like, is it really worth having a super being here? because look at what can happen. Look at the new threats that pop up. So it's a very valid question, and it's something that I think was handled very well in the movie. You're seeing senators, exactly what would happen. You would have politicians, you would have the government involved. Like, should we be involved? Should we find a way to control this person? And you have citizens who are worried. I love, one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when he shows up to the Capitol building, and outside you see the pro Superman fans and the Superman haters, and they're protesting, and you see that divide within the country, within the world. And right there, you see Lois run up through that crowd, and he takes he does glance at her after the Capitol building explodes, and when he looks at her, that is his shining light, despite all this that's going on around in the world. It's a beautiful scene. The one that he should focus on, the person, the one that he consider is his world, is right there in front. But right now, he doesn't see it. He can't grasp that because of all of what is going on around. It's a beautiful scene, and it just accentuates the way that he is just conflicted within, because he begins to question himself. Should I even be doing this? If you go back to Man of Steel, he was trying to find his place in the world. And his birth father, Jor-El, essentially said, look, you can do some great things. You can do great things for these people, but you have to accept that role. By the end of Man of Steel, he accepts that role, but now the world is rejecting him. And that puts him back and goes, maybe I chose wrong. Maybe I should not be doing this. He had to find a reason to fight. He had to find a reason to continue being Superman, because with the world pushing back, what is there? What good is there? No one stays good in this world. Something that Bruce learned over 20 years of being Batman. Then with the Lex manipulation and everything that goes on with Lex and how he manipulates Batman and Superman, and goes to the extent of kidnapping Superman's mother, kidnapping Lois, nearly killing Lois, and threatening to kill Martha, Superman's mother. He's starting to realize, like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's no good in this world. Look at what happens. So if somebody can try and manipulate me, they're going to manipulate me. There's no good. And then you take a look at Batman and how he's been trying to kill Superman. I'm sure Superman is smart enough. He's an investigative reporter. He's probably looked and saw the good that Batman did, but he's now realizing that not everyone stays good in this world. What's the point of saving everybody? What's the point of doing this if everybody's just going to turn evil and turn against one another? So there's that conflict within. And he does have a beautiful scene with his father, where he he's having a discussion with his father. To me, I've always taken those scenes, or that scene, as a memory of something that he and his father had a discussion about years ago when he was younger. And to me, I take it as, Clark is on a journey. He's trying to find, as a Man of Steel, he was trying to find himself. Now he's trying to find a reason to continue being Superman. And it's Jonathan who explains, like, look, I did all this good, but despite doing all this good, there is still bad that can happen. There's still bad that can happen. And while I struggled with that, while I struggled with the possibility of bad happening in this world, there was one shining light in my life. And that was his mother. That was his wife, Martha Kent. That was his world. She was his world. She was the one that could always bring him back. And Superman begins to realize that Lois is that person for him. Despite all of the good that he can do, there will be negative in this world. There will be bad. There will be consequences. It's going to happen. It doesn't matter if you're a super being or just some farmer in Kansas. It's going to happen. And it's just absolutely a beautiful scene, because Clark is still a young man. He's still learning. He's still growing to understand not just who he is as a super being, as a superhero, but he's learning how to be a man. He's learning how to be human. So, when we finally get back to, his journey of trying to find himself, and everything happens with Lois and Lex, threatening to kill Superman's mother, and basically he says, "Look, you have to kill the Bat." And now this whole time he's been manipulating Batman to go and kill Superman, because he believes that if there's anybody that's going to be able to kill Superman, it's going to be Batman. But he does have a backup plan. This entire time, he's working on creating a deformity known as Doomsday. Now, this isn't the Doomsday from the comics. This isn't the Doomsday. It is a version of Doomsday, something that has happened in the comics before. There have been other deformities created similar to Doomsday. I know a lot of people are like, I get all mad about the whole Doomsday thing, but look, Zack Snyder has confirmed this isn't the Doomsday. But that's besides the point. Getting to the story, you have the fight with Bruce and Clark, or Batman and Superman. And while I wish the fight was longer, it's a bit of a short fight. It is very, very impactful, because you have Superman showing up and he's like, look, we're being manipulated. But the rage, the hate, the fear is so fierce inside of Batman that he won't listen to reason at this point. He is too far gone. He has become the very thing he swore to destroy. And Superman is trying to get through him, and he just can't. So finally Superman's like, all right, well, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to have to do what I don't want to do. So he starts fighting, but he takes it light at first because he's hoping. There's that good in Clark. There's that good in Superman that believes that maybe I can get him to stop. Maybe if I can show him that I can stop him with a flick of my finger, that he will stop. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead already. He says that. But Batman, he doesn't relent. Like, he doesn't just stop. He keeps going. He keeps pushing it and utilizing the weapon, the kryptonite weapons that he created from what Lex found in the Indian Ocean. Utilizing those weapons, he's able to weaken Superman and start to get the upper hand. However, the effects don't last long, so he has to kind of speed up and get this process done. Finally, when the battle is starting to come to its end, he throws him off the balcony into the down below in the, I don't know what, in the building, whatever it is. He sits there, I'm sure your parents taught you this. My parents taught me, dying in the gutter for nothing. He's right there in that moment. Bruce is explaining that, like, look, you may have been told that you were brought here and sent here for a reason. Your parents may have taught you that, but my parents taught me, about all the bad and the scary that is in this world. And that's putting it simply. That is what the grand idea of why Bruce is doing this is, because of fear of what he saw happen to his parents. He doesn't want to see happen to this world from a being that has godlike powers. So when he's about to put the finishing blow on Superman with the spear, the final thing that Clark is worried about is his mother. His mother, who is captured, who is going to die if he doesn't bring the head of the Bat to Lex. And, you have to save Martha. That pushes Bruce into remembering the final words of his father, Martha. And he asks, why do you say that name? And it's not because he's like, well, why are you saying my mom's name? It's not that he's asking why he's saying his mom's name. He's asking, why are you saying Martha? Like, what, like, how do you know that? How do you, like, he believes that he's saying Martha because of what he knows or what he remembers from his father. He has no idea of what's happening outside. And that's what kind of takes him back a bit. And he's disoriented because he's now dealing with reliving the tragedy of his parents' death. And Lois comes in and he's like, why are you saying, why would you say that name? Why? And Lois is like, that's his mother's name. And while this is a moment that humanizes, rehumanizes Superman for Bat, or just in general, like, it humanizes Superman. It brings Batman back down, and he's starting to realize that he is becoming the very thing that he swore to destroy. He's no better than the thug who shot his parents. And that is a very important thing to realize. And I know a lot of people want to sit there and criticize and like, oh, what, Martha, it's a hilarious scene, blah, blah, blah. Why say Martha? But when you really get down to it and think about it, that is a brilliant way to bring these characters back down and bring them to an understanding of what is happening. And a lot of people even said, oh, I never put two and two together that they each had a mom named Martha. It's just something that happened like that. So, it is a beautiful, beautiful scene. Superman then, is like, I'm going to go save my mom. Batman's like, I make you a promise. Martha's not going to die tonight. You need to go take care of what Lex is doing. So he goes. Superman goes to take care of what Lex is doing. Batman goes to find Martha. He finds Martha. And in what is probably the most amazing fight sequence in any superhero film, the warehouse fight scene with Batman just tearing shit apart, just manhandling these bad guys is just beautiful. He does save Martha, which again, duh. I mean, you knew it was going to happen. The great thing is when Superman gets to Lex, and Lex finds out that Batman and Superman began working together, that he saved Martha. You can see that rage build inside of Lex, but just in time as his deformity, his creation of this doomsday creature is born. And, one of the greatest lines in the movie, or not greatest lines, but one of the really cool connections in the movie was earlier when Lex is talking to Senator Finch. He says, where was God to save me from my daddy's fist or something like that? And the very first thing that this doomsday creature does is he takes a swing at Lex, but Superman intervenes and catches the fist before it hits Lex. It's one of those things that you sit there and you go, open your eyes, Lex. Like, he will save you. You are one of the many people in this world that he will save, but his anger, his hate, and distrust of Superman is too far gone, and he will never open his eyes and see that. But the doomsday fight, transpires. I do think it's one of the best big bad type of fights that have happened in superhero films. It is fast paced. It is exactly what you would think, a god fighting a demon or a deformity, doomsday. Batman's actions are phenomenal because he realizes he's just a man. He can't take on this being. So it's a lot of like diving behind stuff, hiding, running away, trying to play the game from being, from far away, whereas Wonder Woman, who intervenes fantastically, the greatest superhero introduction in all of comic book history, bar none. She comes in, she's tearing shit up. It's just beautiful. It's just an amazing, amazing scene. It eventually leads to where, Doomsday is just fucking shit up so much that, yet you have Superman who's like, he has to save Lois, who's going to get the spear and all that stuff. But he realizes, he's like, this is it. Like, this is what I'm here to do. And I can't put that aside. But the reason why I do it is for people like you, Lois. Like, Lois you are my world. You are the one that pulls me back. You're the one that makes everything clear to me on why I'm doing this. You're the reason why I do this. And he goes and sacrifices himself for the world, which then in turn, the world then realizes that they did need a Superman, that what he was capable of doing, what he could do for this planet, far outweighed any of the negative and bad that could come. They come to this realization after Superman dies as well. You have Batman, who walks out of the shadow into the light, realizing that everything that he felt for Superman and felt against Superman was probably not the best way to think about it. It was not the best way to handle everything. And he failed what Superman stood for. He failed what he stood for himself. and that he will not allow Superman's death to be in vain, that he will continue the fight. Now, obviously, Bruce, having the nightmare vision during this film, realizes and starting to believe that there's some darker, deeper, bigger threat out there. But he realizes, like, look, it's not just about this bigger threat. Like, this world is worth saving, and I have to get back to my mission of making it a better place. Wonder Woman, who walked away from man 100 years ago, she came back into the fold here, and it's now up to Bruce to kind of pull her back all the way. He can see what she can do, but why isn't she being a symbol of hope like Superman became? I can't wait to see what happens in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I mean, look, over the last 3.5 years, we've heard the stories, seen the storyboards, we've seen images, we've seen, not storyboards, but we've seen things in regards to what Zack had planned. I cannot wait to see how it all plays out. I can't. This story is absolutely so intricate and deep and amazing. There are a lot of people out there who say, oh, it needs to be spread out more. This is happening too quickly, blah, 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 blah. But, you have to remember that it wasn't anything that was supposed to take 10, 15 years to do. This was something that was supposed to be done over the course of like 6 to 8 years and over the course of 5 movies. This wasn't a Marvel Cinematic Universe. This wasn't anything that was going to be 20 movies. This was Zack's idea. Like, look, this is my story. This is what I want to have happen. DC, if you guys want to branch out and do things from that, more power to you. But this is my film arc. And that's what he wanted to do. So I get the desire and want for them to do what Marvel did. I think a lot of people have a preconceived notion that everything needs to be done how Marvel does it. And that's not the case. A lot of times it's just about creating a good story and going that way. Unfortunately, that's not how it happened for Zack Snyder. And it's because people were afraid, I think. I think not people, not fans, but Warner Brothers, the producers, they were afraid in seeing and allowing him to complete his vision because of money. They thought that it would fail. They thought everything would fail. And while Batman vs. Superman only made $800 million, that's not just a small amount of money. I get that a Batman and Superman movie should make $1 million. Hands down, $1 million. But it should make more than that. It should make $1 billion is what I meant. But overall, the movie is fantastic. I recommend everybody to go back and watch it. Zack Snyder's Justice League is due to be out just within a few days. I hope everybody will go back and watch Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman prior to watching Snyder Cut, or watch Snyder Cut, then go back and watch them all again. However you do it, I don't care, because I think you're going to be amazed at this story when you see it from start to middle chapter, essentially, because that's what Snyder Cut is, to the middle chapter. I just hope that everybody does that, because I think you'll be amazed. I really do. But again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure up in one of these corners here, you'll see Man of Steel review. So go check that out if you haven't watched it yet. Not quite as in-depth as this, but it is an in-depth review. With all that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Can't do this without you. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, all that jazz. We'll talk at you later.